What is wealth? Wealth is not a state of mind, obviously. Some people think that wealth is a state of mind. No, there are truly objective things about wealth that you can understand. Wealth is accumulated capital, whether it's in the form of human talent, whether it's in the form of resource distribution. So you expect cash flows from a business, or like you expect your farm to produce crops. That is wealth. Wealth is potential income. That's all wealth is. Because without potential income, you have no wealth. You cannot eat gold. Gold is only valuable in the sense that someone is willing to trade it for other things. If we devolved society, we had unlimited gold, but we had limited food. Guess which would be more expensive? It wouldn't be gold, it would be food. This goes with the logic of supply and demand, and economics understands that. Understanding wealth is understanding the critical aspect of society, because if you understand wealth, you start to understand how the system works. If you have a government enforced monopoly on violence, you have wealth in another way. Because if you control a government, you control the ability to seize resources from the productive class. And when you have a productive class that is more productive, your country becomes rich. Wealth isn't this imaginary fake thing. Wealth is real. In terms of a unit of value, the dollar is not a symbol of wealth, because the dollar declines in value over time. It may be a store of value, which is a principal aspect of money. There's a difference between money and wealth. Bank create credit and money. Money is credit. Wealth is future income, future resources obtained that is stored in potential value, whether it's either in a stock or productive asset, it's in the sweat of your brow, your work, it's in other people's work, human capital, or if it's in machinery used to create produce and active things. Wealth is its own thing, and understanding wealth is critical. So why isn't money wealth? You have to understand, money is this yardstick. Money is the yardstick, whether the euro, the dollar, the yen, the CD, or if you're a Ghanaian, the peso, that's the measure of value. That you measure it, you use it as a system of accounting to deliver and understand what is owed to whom at what time. Banks create money, they create credit, and credit isn't wealth. Credit is debt. Credit is what you owe to another person, or what is owed to you. Credit itself isn't wealth, but credit can be wealth if it provides value to the creditor rather than the debtor, because a debtor has negative wealth, and a creditor has the wealth of a person working for him to get out of debt. You see these things in history. You see these kinds of how wealth is portrayed. And wealth isn't necessarily gold-plated everything. It's not the Bugatti. It's not the goods of consumption. That's a good way to drain your wealth, and it's a sign of wealth that you have these goods because you have money to burn. You have extra resources so that you can make vanity purchases. Just like if you have a house, rather than an estate that produces goods and services, consuming, and you're paying taxes on that land, and it's a net loss for you. So wealth works in a very mysterious way, because wealth is fundamentally about not just a store of value. It's about the future cash flows. Gold was considered wealth, but it's not accurate to say gold is wealth. Why isn't gold wealth? Gold stores value. Not going to become richer by holding gold. It just keeps it flat. The only reason why we see returns on gold in the 10% range is because that's a measure of inflation. Inflation does not mean you are getting wealthier. It just means the yardstick gets smaller so that the numbers get bigger. When you understand this, you start to understand the way the system works. You start to understand how wealth works, and you become a better economic agent as you understand this. My house in New York, it was a liability for me. I was losing money on it. I had to spend money to maintain it, and I had to spend money to keep it. Now that someone is occupying it and someone is renting it, it is an asset, because their income is paid to have a home. It's productive. It's generating cash flow for me, although it's not generating much, and after repairs it's going to be cash flow negative, but it is fundamentally a source of value because I'm receiving cash flows from it. I do not want to buy real estate again, but if I was, I would make sure that it's in a good location, I can rent it out easily, and that the regulatory environment is favorable so I don't get my wealth stolen from me. And by wealth, I mean future cash flows, future income generated. Bitcoin, despite what many people will say about it, is not wealth. Bitcoin is like gold in the sense that it is a store of value. It works less as money, and we'll get into that in another topic. But Bitcoin is fundamentally a store of value. It behaves like a store of value, and it fluctuates based off of the dollar fluctuation, how safe it seems, the reliability of transactions, the privacy of transactions. And as you know, Bitcoin has been underwater from its high point recently. Bitcoin functions more as money, well, not money, but a store of value than gold, because Bitcoin is fundamentally money in its purest form. What would make it more like money? I would say it would have to expand and contract with the number of transactions so that the level remains flat overall and doesn't fluctuate wildly. If you see fluctuating prices, that's a bad sign for money. It may not be a bad sign for wealth, but it means that the yardstick is increasing and decreasing and increasing and decreasing and increasing and decreasing. It's becoming confusing. And because prices aren't stable, money is less useful and people can't plan for the future. So you want it either a constant supply, expands and contracts with the number of transactions, or you want it to slowly increase over time, numbers of transactions excluding. If you can't figure out the number of transactions, it expands at a rate of maybe 2% a year or 3% a year. It expands so that there's inflation, which encourages people to spend now rather than spend later. But prices are stable enough so that creditors will be willing to lend money at a significant rate. So understanding this, money is different from wealth. What is wealth? Wealth is the store of value. It's not just the store of value, it's future cash flows. You've heard of something called the DCF if you're a finance person. Discounted cash flow. It's based off of your required rate of return, the amount of cash is expected, and to calculate a yardstick of wealth, use whatever yardstick. It could be sheep, it could be dollars, it could be euros, it could be strands of hair, it could be anything. But you calculate how much of that discounted to a net present value is what you are going to receive in the future. And once you calculate that, you have the value that calculates the expected wealth that is worth, and it's also what someone's willing to pay for that asset. Obviously, to become more wealthy, you want to figure out mispricings in assets if you want to have asset-based wealth. If you have human capital-based wealth, you have to figure out what sort of things people want and how much they want, and then distribute what they want for a price that they are willing to pay. Target their willingness to pay. If you do that, you'll become wealthy as a laborer or as a services professional. If you find mispricings in markets, you'll be wealthy from an asset-based level, and some combination of the both will make you extremely rich. Understand this and you understand wealth. Thank you.